We're glad you can join us for another mission report from Mission Projects International. My name is Cody Francis, and with me is Mike Bauler. And Mike, you just recently returned from the West African country of Togo. Now, Togo is not exactly a tourist destination. What were you doing there?
Well, I was actually visiting some of our workers there to see what progress they've made.
Good.
And to visit some of the churches that we've built and to conduct a training seminar.
Okay, very good. Now, where exactly is Togo?
Well, like you said, Togo's in West Africa. It's sandwiched right between Ghana and Benin.
Okay.
And then you have Burkina Faso to the north.
And Nigeria also is right in there. Very good. Now, how big is Togo? You don't hear a lot about Togo.
Yeah, Togo's actually a little sliver of a country, actually. It's about the size, a little smaller than West Virginia, and it has about 8 million people in it.
Oh, really? Okay. So what are the living conditions like in Togo?
Well, living conditions there are very rough. It's a very dirty country.
Now, why is it so dirty?
Well, people don't take care of their streets. There's trash everywhere. There's open sewers. Water is contaminated.
So what do people do there?
Well, people are mostly subsistence farmers. That's where most of the people live, is out in the countryside, and they grow produce like millet, corn, cassava.
Now, are they growing this to sell, or are they growing it just to eat? Do they live from literally hand to mouth?
Primarily, the people are eating it just to survive on from day to day. And they do sell a little bit if they can, if they get a crop that can produce more than they can actually sell. Most people are living from hand to mouth.
Now, what is the climate and things like that like there?
Well, it's a very hot country. There's some tropical parts, very small, but also there's some very low-lying areas that are actually arid and like desert type.
Oh, really? So it's close to the Sahara Desert then?
Yes, up in the north, yes.
Okay. So what is the income level? What are people, is it poor? Or?
Togo is actually ranked the 16th poorest country in the world.
Really?
And people mainly, if they're just the common worker there, maybe makes $2 a day. And that's their gross, and so
that's for those that have a job, not the subsistence farmers.
That's right. Those who, maybe like a taxi driver, a moto taxi driver, would make that much in a day, and he would have to live on that amount of money, putting gas in his moto, and he doesn't even own the moto himself, so he's renting it from somebody else.
So it's a very poor area then.
Extremely poor.
And their homes, what do most of them live in?
In the cities, some of them have concrete floors, but the majority of the country lives in mud huts with grass roofs. And
their diet, what do they eat a lot there?
So their main diet is millet, and they'll take millet. It's a very tall growing plant. It's about 14 feet high. They chop the head off of it. Then they put it in the sun. Normally where you see it is on the top of the roofs of their grass huts.
Sure.
Drying in the sun.
On the grass huts, actually, the roofs.
Yes. And they will dry it, and then they'll grind it into a powder, mix it with water, and then cook it, and it's made into like a paste. It's like a thick bubblegum type consistency. Yes. And then corn. They do eat yams and cassava and various root vegetables.
What is the education level like and things like that?
Yeah, most people, most young children never make it past 6th grade. So the literacy level is actually really, really low there.
What language do they speak?
So their national language is French. So it's a French-speaking country. But then there's local dialects within the country. There's about 40 different dialects within the country. But the main ones, there's the main tribe up in the north is the Kabylie. They speak Kabylie. And then down in the south is the Aways.
Okay. You don't speak any of those languages, I don't think, do you?
No.
So what do you get? What do they translate you into? Is it Awe or French, or what is it?
So most of the time they'll translate in the local dialects of the people, because even most of the common people do not even speak French. But they do speak their local dialect, which is either Awe or Kabylie or various other dialects.
Okay, yeah. So when you were there, you weren't exactly sightseeing, correct?
Correct.
You were visiting workers that were helping to support and things like that?
Yeah, so we have 11 workers there, and we've had some that we've supported for quite some time now, a few years, But I wanted to also see some of the new workers that we have been supporting for maybe a year.
Okay.
And see how their progress is being made and what they're doing and how many Bible studies they have, what they're doing as far as their evangelism, literature distribution, and such.
So it sounds like they stay very active.
Yes, I mean, they're putting in at least 2 hours of literature distribution per day, plus Bible studies. One lady had 30 Bible studies in a week.
That's a lot of Bible studies.
That's a lot of Bible studies.
That's 30 different studies.
30 different studies.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot.
Yes.
And you were visiting churches and...
Yeah, so we had built some churches there, and I wanted to see, what they look like. One was just brand new, and it looks really nice. So what we would build is just a simple structure, tin roof with logs for pillars on the sides. And the church members actually helped buy the concrete, transport it there, and then lay the concrete out, and it looks very nice.
So they paid for the concrete themselves?
Yes.
And did they do labor with that too?
They do the labor with it too.
Okay, so they're putting themselves into it then?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then hopefully they take ownership of it, and it really means something to them.
I mean, you should see them. They decorate the outside. It's very nice. I've been to some churches in different countries, and there's trash outside, no trash at all. Everything's clean. They're planting things and make things look nice.
So you were happy with seeing the churches that were built? Oh,
yes.
Very good. And as you were there, you were working with the workers, and you were also helping to instruct them. You're doing a training school or something like that?
Our workers there, they don't have books like we have here today, Spirit of Prophecy books especially. And so we were wanting to train them in how to give Bible studies, how to prepare sermons. And I think that was the most enjoyable part of the training. So did they actually give sermons? Yes. So I had them give a 5-minute sermon, and that's actually pretty difficult. It's more difficult than what you would think it would. Was it translated so you could hear what they were talking about? It was translated so I could hear it, but it was translated over on the side so that they could make it fluent. And so they did a really good job of putting together their introduction, their body, and then their conclusion. All in 5 minutes? All in 5 minutes. Yeah. And so introductions frequently are 5 minutes. Yes, that's right. And so they did very good in time management, and the content of many of the workers were really good. So they had been studying the Bible and thinking for themselves. I could see that they had really put some thought into it and put a lot of effort into making sure their time was right and the body of their sermon was interesting to the people that were listening. Of course, they're speaking to the other training school students, but still is maybe it's a little more challenging when you're preaching to other students. So you think it really helped them to do their work better? Absolutely. Equipping the churches and teaching them how to preach was really beneficial for them, because I could really see the enthusiasm and everything else that they put into the training that they were doing with learning how to preach. Sure. Now, this wasn't just in the classroom instruction, though, wasn't there? They were actually able to work in an evangelistic series too, correct? Yes. I mean, they weren't doing the preaching. Sure. But they were actually they were highly involved. They're doing Bible work. So you were holding a evangelistic series in conjunction with this Bible worker training program, correct? It seems more beneficial to the workers to see something, an actual evangelistic meeting that you're trying to train them how to do. And so the workers, we had several laymen in the church. And several Bible workers that were out on the ground about 8 months ahead of time of me arriving. Okay. And so they had established the people They were finding people that were interested, giving them Bible studies. That's right. And so many of them had studied the Bible with many of them for months ahead of me. So how long was your evangelistic meeting there then? It was 2 weeks. How many people were coming? We had around over 200 people come to our meetings. Very good. And it was held at the church. I was used to more people coming. Just when we have a public venue, we had more people coming. Sure. But we had it at the church, but we still had 200 people, and that was solely from radio advertisement and from the Bible workers going door to door and giving Bible studies to people. So. Okay, so a lot of them were warm contacts. That's right. They had already heard the message through the Bible workers. When I came, it was just solidifying them in the truths. So there had been some that had been working beforehand. Then you have the training program and the evangelistic series going on at the same time. That's right. How did everything end up? Well, we actually had the workers had done a tremendous job. They had done a lot of work, and the laymen. I mean, I got to include the laymen. It wasn't just the paid workers; it was the laymen.
So the whole church was enthusiastic
the whole
and inspired to really get out there and work.
That's right. The pastor.
That's really the key to success, isn't it?
Absolutely. Pastor Agama has done a wonderful job getting the church members involved in personal evangelism with people, either through literature distribution or through personal Bible studies. And so we had about 42 people that were baptized. These weren't just people that just came through the seminar. These were people that the workers had been doing Bible studies with for a number of months.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a real blessing, the program.
I was extremely impressed, and the Lord really blessed. But I was just really impressed with the workers and how Pastor Agama got them all organized, got them out there working, and laymen, both men and women.
Now, and what's the most exciting is that work is continuing to go on there, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so in our next section, we're going to be looking at the ongoing work in Togo and how the Lord is continuing to bless there. So in our last section, Mike, you were telling us about how the Lord blessed with your trip and the training school, visiting some of the churches, the evangelistic series that the Lord blessed, and many people made a stand for the Lord. But, you know, we began to talk a little bit about what I think is the best part, and that's the work that is still going on there.
That's right.
And how many workers are working in Togo now?
So we have 11 workers right now. And so we have a few in the south, or they're spread out throughout the country is what they are. And so it gives we get a broad a reach of through the people.
Now, their workers, what do these workers do?
Well, their daily routine is literature distribution. They'll go out and pass out literature for two hours a day.
So do they go house to house? Do they go to the market?
They both. They'll go to markets. They'll go to houses. And this is where they start Bible studies. In handing out this literature, the literature through Cornerstone Publishing, through Ruben Teskey, is you can actually do Bible studies through those.
Like Behold He Cometh with the different Bible studies. I think it's Full Message Bible Studies, right?
Absolutely.
In that newspaper tabloid, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So they get the Bible study, they go out, give out literature, get Bible studies, and then they're busy giving the Bible studies, I would imagine,
they're giving
too.
Bible studies, and they're also conducting the church services and prayer meetings, and so they're busy through the week.
Okay, well, very good. And what type of people are they dealing with? I mean, do they deal with opposition, or is everybody receptive? Or
They do have a lot of opposition there. The country is composed of about 80% Catholics, and there's a little less, well, probably a little less than that in the Roman Catholics, and there's about 20% Muslims, and a very small percentage of those people are Protestants. And the Église de Dieu is a Pentecostal church there in the country, and they have many, many churches there. But they're a small percentage of the population.
So are they dealing also with the native animist worship and things like that?
Yeah, so it's very interesting in the culture there, because whether you're a Roman Catholic or whether you are a Muslim, you can still go to these what they call a devil dance, or these where witch doctors go, and they can still participate in ancestral worship. The Iglesia de Dieu, the church there, this Pentecostal church, they actually ask them not to go to these. But when you go to their churches, they're actually doing the same thing as these devil dances out there with all the witch doctors.
Really? So there's a lot of nominal Christians, but they're still maintaining the ancient devil worship type of thing, the fetish worship and that. So is it difficult for people to give up these fetish worships and things like that?
Yeah, in the society there, everything is centered around this patriarchal type system, where if the father tells a son or a daughter they cannot go to church there, they will obey their parents. I mean, it is, for the people that were baptized, it took a tremendous amount of courage to say no to their parents or to some family member who is the leader in their family, to say, no, I'm going to obey Jesus. I'm going to obey God. I'm going to follow him. I'm going to be baptized. Because there was one young man that we met who said, my father said, I cannot be baptized.
And he wasn't baptized then?
He was not baptized, but there were many who were.
And were there those that took a stand even though their family was against what they were doing too?
Yes.
So they were choosing to follow Jesus above father or mother, brother and sister.
Right.
Very good. So very difficult then to deal with the people and to help them to come all of the way out of this false worship that they're involved in.
Yes, it's, in the Muslim religion, they are highly against any type of Christianity. I mean,
Yeah.
we met many Muslims there when we were going door to door handing out literature. I mean, they were not even willing to take even our literature.
Huh.
They believe they look at us as heathens.
Yeah, sure. Huh. So the Bible workers, they're there, they're giving out literature, they're giving Bible studies, they're conducting the meetings. Are there some Bible workers that stick out in your mind that are really strong workers or that have tremendous experiences or things like that?
So there were three in particular that I'd like to mention that had what I would call or what I would call a true conversion, where they're willing to do whatever it takes to follow God and get the message out.
Huh.
One of them in the south of Lomé lives in the big city and does a lot of literature distribution, a lot of Bible studies. He's a part-time worker. He hasn't seen his house because of the flooding within the city. The city has some place that has 3 feet of water. And
so in the north it's a desert, and in the south it can be a torrential downpour, sounds like.
That's exactly right. So he hasn't seen his house. He hasn't been able to get into his house in months.
Because of the flood going on?
Because of the flood waters. I mean, it's just totally flooded his house out.
Really?
So
where is he living?
He lives in his shop. And a typical shop in Africa is not what we would know as a shop. I mean, we're talking about a little storefront that is about 8 by 10. Mm-hmm. And he's living in a part of that shop with his wife and 2 children. And before I left, I asked him, what is something that you would like to have? And I always wanted to see what he would. I wanted to see what he would say. And the one thing that he wanted was Bibles.
So why did he want Bibles? He already had a Bible, didn't he?
He had a Bible.
Uh-huh.
But, he didn't ask for anything. He didn't ask, why don't you give me some money so I can go get another apartment or whatever it may be. But he said, I want Bibles so that when I go to Bible studies, I can have the people have a Bible in their own hand so that they can read it for themselves.
So most people don't have Bibles,
Most
apparently.
people do not have Bibles. So that's, that amazed me because, if we were in a certain situation, if we were in the same situation as he was, what would we ask for? But he was
dedicated to his work, wasn't he?
He wanted to see the work move forward.
Yeah.
His name was Brother Atu and his wife, and so they've been living in this shop for many months.
So he has a little shop, does a little bit of business, then does Bible work and things like that also.
That's right. That's right.
Very good. So are there others that you can think of?
Yeah, there's a brother named Joel, and he lives up in the north near Kara, and he decided that he wanted to spread the message out beyond the city of Kara. Now, Kara is a fairly good-sized town. It's about 80,000 people to 100,000. He decided,
probably crowded pretty close together, too.
It's spread out, but there's a lot of people there. But he just said, I want to take the message to other places, to other villages. And so he moved to a remote village of Sandefo. And it's a small village. And I thought to myself, what's it like out in these villages? And so I went out there and spent some time with him and spent the night with him. And he is holy. He was a part-time worker. So he would work part-time as doing Bible work and farming. He was a subsistence farmer like we had talked about. And the one thing that he grew was corn and maize. And that's all he ate. He had, when I'm there, we would have sauce that we would put with our whatever cornmeal or millet or whatever it may have been. But he hadn't eaten sauce in months.
Really?
So all he would eat, him and his wife, they were part-time workers, and so they didn't get paid a lot of money, but they were able to grow their own food. And I thought, because when you're living near the cities, the smaller districts or the bigger districts, you would have fruits and vegetables. You could get things like that if you had the money. But he decided to move out this remote village to do the work. And he is doing a tremendous amount of work, just working part-time and trying to get crops to grow, but he would still have 25 Bible studies in a week.
Really? That sounds full-time to me.
He's full-time Bible worker, full-time farmer.
Really? Huh.
Just so he could feed his family.
Uh-huh. And is the Lord blessing his efforts there in that village?
Absolutely. We were able to build a church
Oh, really?
There. And we had meetings there one night, and I think we nearly had the whole entire village there. So it was good.
So he went into this village. There was no Adventist presence there, and he started this group. How big is the church now that he started?
So there's about 40 people that are worshiping there in this simple structure.
Very good. Yes. Wow. It's wonderful to see dedicated people that are willing to sacrifice their comfort in order to take the message.
That's right. I mean, we're talking about sleeping on a dirt floor or a concrete floor, no bedding. Outside kitchen. I mean, it's very remote. You know,
when we see the sacrifices they're willing to make for the message, it kind of is a rebuke to us, because what sacrifices are we willing to make? And our sacrifices are so much less than the sacrifices that they're making. So, wow.
And there's one more that I'd like to tell you about that's special to me. The man, his name is Paka. He was a layman. And out of the 42 people that were baptized, 5 of them were his Bible studies.
Oh, really?
I was very impressed with what his work was. And there were more people.
So he wasn't getting paid. He was just out. He was just a church member.
That's right. He's just a church member. Extremely, extremely poor. I mean, we were in a village too, of Lama Fang, and he too was just a farmer, just eating just millet or corn or mill or whatever it may have been, just something to fill his belly. Then going out and doing work for the Lord. And the people that he baptized, I could see they were extremely dedicated people. But what was so interesting about his story, his testimony, was that he had came to our meetings about three years ago.
Okay.
He came to one of our evangelistic meetings. And there at the evangelistic meetings, we had a unique experience. We had a man who was a gong-gong. Now, a gong-gong is a person who goes out with a little bell, and he'll go around the village and telling people that there's a meeting.
So he would announce the meeting then?
He would announce the meeting. You go out with this bell, and you can hear him out in the dark, running around the village, calling people. This night, we were in the middle of our evangelistic meetings, and I was wanting to get people there so we could get started. And I asked one of our laymen there, can you go hire the gong-gong, so we have to pay him to do this, hire the gong-gong to go and tell the people that the meeting is starting. So he goes to this person's house, and the gong-gong is gone. So he comes back and tells me, he's gone. I said, you go get the gong-gong, and you come back, and you get the gong-gong, go around and tell people that we're having meetings.
So it must be a sound that everybody recognizes that it's a call to meeting. Okay.
There's only one gong-gong in the village.
Okay, so he has a monopoly on the business.
That's right. And so he goes out and calls the people, and then he comes back with this gong-gong. I took a picture of him, I wanted to see what it looked like. In the middle of our meetings, a man shows up outside of our public tent where we have this, with chairs and everything.
So you're preaching.
I'm preaching.
And you see this man over here on the side.
All of a sudden, I'm looking out in the audience, and I'm not kidding you, probably 100 people get up from their seats and migrate over to this man. And I'm like, I look over at my translator and I ask, what's going on? He says, just keep preaching. I said, okay. So I keep preaching, and just about 3 minutes later, here comes all these people, and they sit back down. And they're looking intently, and they're listening intently. Then all of a sudden, they get up again, and they go over to this man.
Sounds distracting.
It was distracting. I find out the man outside of our meetings was the witch doctor who owned the gong-gong.
Oh, really? So the witch doctor is the gong-gong man?
The gong-gong man.
Okay.
So the witch doctor is mad, and the reason he told us he was mad, because his witches left his house. And so
he's referring to his evil spirits there.
Evil spirits, yes. Okay. But he called them his witches, and they were female witches that left his house. So he was mad that his gong-gong was used to call people to religious meetings.
I see.
And so this went on 3 times. And finally,
3 times during the same meeting?
3 times.
Okay.
And we tried to figure out, why are they going back and forth? Well, what they were doing, the people were doing, they were going over and listening to the witch doctor and all of his curses that he was casting upon me to try to stop the meetings. And they'd come back and sit down and listen intently.
So they were going to see if these things happened?
Yeah, they were waiting for me to fall over dead or whatever. Well, nothing happened. Well, this is the meeting that Paka was in.
Oh, really?
It made a profound impact because he was training to be a witch doctor.
Oh, really? Huh.
So in his training, and by the way, being a witch doctor in these villages is a very lucrative business.
Sure. And powerful as well.
Is powerful. He controls the minds of the people because the people believe that he's the one who has communication with the spirit world, these evil spirits. And he knows how to appease the spirit, so he can tell the people what to do. Well, the people have to give him something in return, whether it's money or chickens or goats or pigs or whatever it may be. So that's where most of the animals are in the villages around the witch doctor's house.
I see.
And so he's training to be a witch doctor because he sees it's lucrative. These are, you know, when we talk about voodoo, Togo is actually where voodoo actually began, in Togoville. It's in the southern part of the country. And, you know, you think about voodoo as the witch doctor poking needles and things like that into dolls and things like that in voodoo. This is real. Because when I was there...
it controls and fears the people, and it puts fear in the people,
puts
too.
them in absolute submission, because I've actually seen people that have died who were casting curses upon. So if people believe in it, the devil can take absolute control of the mind of the people. And so when I actually wanted to see what it was like to be a part of this witch doctor, I mean, what would it take to be one? I had the opportunity to go to what they called a devil dance. And this is where witch doctors from many different villages get together. And while I was there, I witnessed what they would do. And the witch doctors, there was probably several hundred of them there vying for position.
So they're trying to compete with one another to see who's going to be the top witch doctor? Within
this one devil dance, there was possibly 200, maybe even more witch doctors in 5 villages. They were all vying for the positions in those 5 villages. And in these devil dances, it is absolutely wicked. It reminds me of what happened with King Ahab on the top of Mount Carmel, with the priests cutting themselves and bleeding all over the altars. And that's what was happening. They would consume so much alcohol, and they would run around with frogs, live frogs within their mouth, or rats or snakes hanging out of their mouths, and drinking alcohol and the unclean meat and the music, the beat, that just constant beating of what we would call rock music today, that beat of the rock music for hours on end. They would cut themselves, and they would place their hands on their arms, and their arms would be automatically healed from Satan, from the delusion. I saw men sticking arrows up in the veins of their arms and making them bleed, and they will just do all kinds of grotesque things just to prove who had the greatest magic. And so I saw even young people vying for positions to be witch doctors, and they were just totally disqualified. I saw them over there just totally dejected. I mean, it's just it's a cruel society where this evil spirits reign supreme.
And so Paco was training to be in that. So what happened? I mean, he didn't obviously go into that, I assume.
That's right. So when he saw this supposed magic of this witch doctor having no power over anybody, not even not me or anybody, my translator or any Christian there, it made a profound impact.
The power of the Lord is definitely stronger, isn't it?
That's right. He saw that, and he began inquiring with the pastor, what is it that makes this, what you have, so powerful? And so he gave a testimony of the alcohol. The people knew him there, that he was giving a testimony, just the alcohol he used to consume, and how he used to just be wanting to be this witch doctor. And you know, he gave his heart, he surrendered his heart to the Lord, started Bible study, and he's now the head elder.
Really? So 3 years ago, he came to the evangelistic meetings, saw the contrast between the devil worship and the worship of the God of heaven, and he desired to follow the Lord. And he's just grown from there.
He's absolutely grown. I mean, He gave one of the most powerful testimonies I think I've ever heard.
Oh, praise the
Just
Lord.
how God had delivered him from many different things, smoking and drinking and all kinds of other vices.
Yeah, what the Lord can do.
Absolutely. It's just amazing testimony.
So as you're there and as you see these workers working and confronting with just blatant heathenism, what are some of the needs to help them continue to do the work that they're doing?
Their biggest need is Bibles and literature.
Huh.
I mean, they really need to have Bibles and literature so that they can sit down with people and show people, because I've seen the change that just reading the Bible makes in the people's lives, because now they realize that Satan can have no power over them.
Yeah.
The evil spirits cannot make them fear any longer.
So how much does a Bible cost?
A Bible costs about $5.50 in America.
Okay, so a little over $5, between $5 and $6.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a real big investment, is it?
No,
But it can lead a person to the Lord.
It can meet many people, because that one Bible will be shared and read before other people or family members.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So Bibles and literature, what else?
You know, Ellen White talks about putting memorials in cities.
Mm-hmm.
Churches are one thing that people can go to listen to truth. And churches are a great need for...
just the simple churches with they have a tin roof.
A tin roof. They have wooden, poles, logs on the side.
And that enables it so that they can start worshiping in it, and then they can finish and make it better themselves.
Put concrete down, and they'll decorate it nice with bamboo sides and things like that. They do things that just make things really nice.
So what does a simple church structure like that cost?
A church structure like that would cost about $1,500.
Okay, so for $1,500 you can build a church. Are there a number of villages without churches that need churches now?
There's many of them, many, because there's 16 groups now in Togo, and many of them do not have. They're worshiping under grass roofs or grass huts.
Makes it hard when it rains, doesn't it?
Makes it very hard.
Yeah. So how many church buildings are there?
There's actually 3 right now.
Okay, so that'd be at least 13 more, huh?
Right.
And then as they continue to work, then more villages will be needing it.
That's right. And you see the difference when a church building is made and people have a place to come to that has a chair. It makes all the difference in the world.
Gives stability and permanence to the message and the word. So what about the workers? How do they get paid? How much do they get paid?
Yeah, so we can support a worker for about $50 a month.
Is that a full-time worker?
A full-time worker. That's about $1.50 a day. We can put a worker into, but in the remote villages, we like to pay them a little bit more, because they need to travel in to get fruits and vegetables or whatever they need to get, and so they can live a little bit better and eat a little bit better.
Now, they're not living better than everybody else, though, on that wage.
They're living just like everybody else.
Yeah. You mentioned part-time workers, too. What do you pay a part-time worker then?
So a part-time worker, we would pay about between $35 and $50, depending on where he is.
I see.
So a full-time, we could pay $75.
Okay. And so are there additional workers that it would be good to start employing?
Yes. There's many different cities. The pastor there has a plan to reach all of Togo, and so there's cities that he's marked out. This is the next place we're going. We want to start a church here.
So workers are needed to enter those cities.
So if this is something that you are interested in helping out in, whether it be literature or Bibles or setting up a church in a certain city, I want to appeal to you. We're living at the time of the end when soon our money won't be worth anything. And so if you would like to invest in the treasury of heaven and get this message out and break the power of Satan in this country, where so many people are controlled by superstition and evil spirits, if you would like to be involved in this, I'd like to invite you to pray about it and see how you can help in God's work. May the Lord bless you and keep you.